Ethan Miller came home early on Christmas Eve, smiling to himself as he drove through the cold, quiet streets. He had left work 2 hours ahead of schedule, excited to surprise his family. Snow covered the roofs, Christmas lights glowed softly, and he imagined walking in with gifts and warm hugs. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. But the peace broke the second he pulled into the driveway. There, curled near the porch, was his 15-year-old son Caleb. The boy was shivering so hard his teeth clattered. His face was pale, his lips slightly blue. He wore only a thin hoodie, completely useless in the biting -10 degrees Celsius cold. Snowflakes stuck to his hair and eyelashes. Ethan jumped out of the car, his heart slamming against his ribs. Caleb? Caleb? What happened? Why are you outside? Caleb tried to answer, but his voice came out in broken pieces. Dad. I'm so cold. Ethan wrapped his coat around him immediately. When he touched Caleb's hands, they felt like ice. Panic rushed through his chest. Who did this? Why are you locked out? Caleb lowered his head, and tears slipped down his cheeks, freezing halfway. Mom, he whispered. She locked me out. We had an argument. Ethan felt the world tilt for a second. Your mother locked you out? In this weather? Caleb nodded slowly, his breath shaking. I tried to knock, but she said I needed to learn a lesson. A hot wave of anger shot through Ethan, mixed with fear. He hugged Caleb close and rushed him inside. The moment he stepped through the door, the warm air hit them. But what hit Ethan harder was the sight of Lauren standing in the living room, casually scrolling through her phone. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look guilty. She barely looked up. You're home early, she said flatly. Ethan stared at her, completely stunned. Lauren. Caleb was outside, in the freezing cold. Why would you do that? She shrugged. He disrespected me. I told him to calm down outside. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Ethan repeated, his voice rising. He could have gotten hypothermia. Lauren didn't react. Her calmness didn't feel normal. It felt wrong. Almost empty. He exaggerates, she muttered. You always take his side. Ethan felt something cold crawl down his spine. Colder than the weather. This wasn't normal anger. This wasn't a small lapse in judgment. Her voice, her face, her complete lack of concern. It all felt off. Caleb stood quietly behind Ethan, still shaking, staring at the floor. He didn't even try to defend himself. He just looked tired, broken. Ethan suddenly realized this wasn't the first time she had treated Caleb harshly. He had brushed off the small signs, the sharp comments, the sudden punishments, the cold tone she used with him lately. He had told himself she was stressed, tired, overwhelmed. But now, watching her stand there so calm after locking their son outside in dangerous cold, he felt something heavy settle in his stomach. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a mistake. Something was wrong with Lauren. Something darker than he had ever imagined. And as he stood there, holding his trembling son, Ethan understood one chilling truth. Tonight wasn't the beginning. Tonight was the moment he finally saw what had been happening all along. Lauren's increasing coldness toward Caleb did not happen overnight. It grew slowly, quietly over the years. So slowly that Ethan kept telling himself it was just stress, just exhaustion, just a bad phase. But deep inside, he knew something had changed long ago. And now when he looked back, he could see every sign he had ignored. In the early years of their marriage, Lauren had been full of dreams. She was ambitious, always talking about her plans, her career, her travel goals, her desire to make something big out of her life. Ethan admired that about her. She was confident, smart, and determined. They both worked hard and imagined a future where they could enjoy the success they built together. But then the unexpected happened. Lauren got pregnant with Caleb. Ethan remembered the look on her face when they saw the test result. He had smiled, excited and nervous. But Lauren, she had gone silent. She didn't cry or celebrate. She simply stared at the test, as if someone had taken something from her. She never said it out loud in those early days, but Ethan could feel it. She wasn't ready. She wasn't happy. She wasn't sure she wanted the life that came with being a mother. When Caleb was born, Ethan hoped her feelings would change. He hoped she would fall in love with their gentle baby boy. But instead, Lauren seemed to grow more distant. She did the basics, feeding him, changing him, but she didn't show warmth. She didn't sing to him or smile at him the way other mothers did. She often looked tired, frustrated, annoyed. As Caleb grew older, he became a quiet, sensitive child. He preferred books over noise, drawing over arguments. He was soft-spoken, polite, and always careful not to upset anyone, especially his mother. He watched her closely, learning her moods, trying to avoid displeasing her. Ethan noticed it but convinced himself it was just Caleb's personality. Lauren, however, saw Caleb differently. She blamed him for slowing down her life. She said she could have been more successful, more free, if she hadn't become a mother so early. Sometimes, in moments of anger, she even told Ethan, "You don't understand what I gave up." Ethan worked long hours to support them, and because of that, he missed many moments at home. He always felt guilty for not being there enough, for not seeing what was happening sooner, for not protecting Caleb better. When he came home late at night, he often found Lauren tired and irritable, complaining about Caleb being too emotional or too needy. Caleb always stayed silent. Over the years, the divide in the family widened. Ethan became the mediator, always trying to keep peace between mother and son. He talked to Lauren gently, asking her to be more patient. He encouraged Caleb to understand that his mother was stressed, but nothing helped. Lauren grew colder, shutting everyone out, speaking to Caleb with irritation instead of love. Then came the signs of Caleb's decline. His once good grades began to fall. He stopped drawing. He stopped talking about school. He carried a sadness in his eyes that Ethan couldn't explain. Teachers called, saying Caleb seemed tired and distracted. He didn't participate. He didn't smile. Ethan tried to get answers from him, but Caleb always gave the same quiet reply, "I'm fine, Dad. I'm just tired." Ethan suspected more was going on, but he still tried to believe Lauren's explanations. He's lazy. He's acting out. He just wants attention. A part of Ethan didn't want to accept that his marriage was failing, or that the woman he loved was mistreating their son. He thought if he worked harder, if he loved her more, if he made life easier for her, things would get better. But every year Lauren withdrew further. She stopped attending Caleb's school events, stopped caring about his interests, stopped speaking kindly to him. Her eyes held impatience instead of affection. And Caleb, gentle and quiet as ever, simply shrank deeper into himself. Still, Ethan held on to hope. He wanted to keep the family together. He wanted Caleb to have both parents. He wanted to believe Lauren still cared deep down, even if she didn't show it. He wanted to believe that love could fix what was breaking. But looking back now, after finding his son locked outside in freezing cold, Ethan finally understood the truth he had ignored for years. Lauren's resentment had been growing, spreading, turning colder with time. And he had been blind to how deeply it had affected their son. He had tried to save the marriage, but he hadn't seen that he was losing Caleb in the process. After the confrontation, Lauren didn't show any guilt or worry. Instead, she stood with her arms crossed and said calmly, "He disrespected me, Ethan." He raised his voice. "I told him to go outside and cool off. He needed to learn not to talk back." Ethan stared at her, shocked. "He's 15, Lauren. And it's freezing outside. You could have seriously hurt him." She rolled her eyes. "You always baby him. That's why he acts spoiled." Spoiled. The word felt like a slap. Caleb, who barely spoke, who walked on eggshells, who tried to avoid conflict. Spoiled? Ethan wanted to yell, to demand answers, to shake her out of whatever coldness had taken over her. But Caleb stood there, still wrapped in Ethan's coat, shivering softly. Ethan knew he needed to take care of his son first. Later, when Lauren went to the kitchen and the house grew quiet, Ethan sat beside Caleb on the couch. He spoke gently, not wanting to push him too hard. "Son, has she done this before? Locked you out?" Caleb hesitated. His fingers twisted the edge of the coat. He kept his eyes on the floor. "Dad, please don't get mad." "I won't," Ethan promised, his heart already tightening. Caleb took a small breath. "She's been doing it for months. Only when you're not home." Ethan froze. "Months?" His voice cracked. "Caleb, why didn't you tell me?" Caleb shrugged weakly. "She said if I told you, things would get worse. Sometimes it was only 10 minutes. Sometimes longer. I didn't want to cause problems." Ethan felt like the ground beneath him had shifted. He couldn't fully process what he was hearing. The woman he had married, the mother of his child, had been locking their son outside for months? In the cold? At night? A mix of disbelief and horror flooded him. He wanted to storm into the kitchen and confront Lauren again, but something stopped him. A strange, heavy feeling. If she could do this for months without him knowing, what else could she be doing? For the first time, a frightening thought crossed his mind. He didn't actually know what Lauren was capable of anymore. So he made a decision. Instead of exploding, instead of shouting, he would stay calm. He would observe. He would find the truth. "Caleb," he said softly, "I'm going to handle this. You did nothing wrong. Do you understand?" Caleb nodded slowly, though his eyes were still fearful. That night, after Caleb went to bed and Lauren had shut herself in the bedroom, Ethan sat alone in the living room. The house felt different, cold in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. He thought about all the small signs he had brushed off. The tension, Caleb's sadness, Lauren's harsh tone, her lack of warmth. He realized he had to know everything. Not guesses, not assumptions. Proof. Then he remembered something. The outdoor security camera he had installed earlier that year. He had set it up after a package was stolen. He rarely checked it since their neighborhood was quiet. But now he needed to see. With shaking hands, he opened the camera app and began scrolling through past recordings. It only took a few minutes for his heart to stop. There it was, clear as day. A video from 2 months ago. Lauren opening the door, grabbing Caleb by the arm, and pushing him outside. He stumbled onto the porch, wearing only a t-shirt. She locked the door. He stood there hugging himself, quietly crying. Another clip, and another, and another. Different nights, different excuses, always the same cold pattern. She pushed him out, closed the door, and ignored him. Ethan felt sick. His chest tightened until it hurt. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a tough phase. This wasn't a marriage going through normal problems. This was something dangerous, something cruel, something he should have seen sooner. His hands trembled as he watched clip after clip. Each one felt like a punch to his heart. Lauren had been hurting their son right under his nose, and he had missed it. In that moment, Ethan understood something terrifying. His marriage wasn't just falling apart. It had become a threat to Caleb's safety, and life in that house could no longer continue the way it had before. Lauren lying to friends, painting Caleb as aggressive, was the next thing Ethan discovered, and it made everything even worse. He found out by accident. One afternoon, while Lauren was in the shower, her phone lit up with messages from her friend group chat. Ethan wasn't the type to check her phone, but the preview of the first message froze him. "Lauren, you're so strong. Teenagers can be scary. Stay safe." Scary? Caleb? He opened the chat, and his stomach turned as he read Lauren's messages. "Caleb is becoming violent. He screams at me for no reason. Sometimes I worry he might hurt me." Not a single word was true. Caleb had never raised his voice at anyone. He was gentle, quiet, and afraid of upsetting her. Yet here Lauren was, telling her friends that her own son was dangerous. Almost like she was setting up a story, shaping how others would see him. Ethan felt sick. It wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just anger. It was manipulation. That night, he sat with Caleb again, trying to understand the full picture. Caleb hesitated, then admitted something that broke Ethan's heart even more. "Dad, sometimes when you work late, she doesn't let me eat dinner." Ethan blinked, stunned. "What do you mean? She doesn't cook?" Caleb shook his head. "It's not that. She tells me I don't deserve food if I ruin her mood. She eats, but she won't let me have anything until the morning." Ethan's chest tightened. "Caleb, why didn't you tell me this?" "Because you were tired," Caleb whispered. "I didn't want to bother you. And she said you'd just get mad at me." The guilt was crushing. Ethan felt like he had failed as a father. While he worked late nights trying to support the family, his son was sitting in his room hungry, because of someone he trusted. He waited until Caleb was asleep before he confronted Lauren. He approached her calmly, hoping she would see reason if he didn't start a fight. But Lauren didn't even try to deny it. "What if I did?" she snapped. "He's ungrateful. He pushes my buttons all day. He thinks he can talk to me however he wants. A few skipped meals won't kill him." Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Lauren, he's a child. Our child." "Your child," she shot back. "You created this soft, emotional, needy boy who drains me every single day." "Stop it," Ethan said sharply. "You're hurting him." She laughed, cold, sharp. "No. Ethan. He's hurting me. And you're being manipulated. He's playing you because he knows you'll fall for his sad little act. Ethan's voice shook with anger. You locked him outside in freezing weather. You starve him. And you're lying to your friends about him being aggressive. None of this is normal. You think I'm the problem? She shouted, her voice rising. You think I wanted this life? You forced me into motherhood. You ruined my career. You ruined everything. I didn't force you, Ethan said quietly. You did, she screamed. When I got pregnant, you pushed me to keep the baby. You talked about family and love and a future. You pressured me until I had no choice. And now I'm stuck with a child I never wanted and a husband who ignores me. Her words hit like stones. Not because they were true, but because they were filled with a rage he had never seen so clearly. Lauren wasn't just angry. She was unstable. She was drowning in bitterness she had held onto for 15 years. And Caleb had been the one paying the price. After that fight, Ethan felt completely lost. He needed help understanding what was happening. So he went to the only person who might know Lauren well enough, her older sister, Jenna. When he told Jenna everything, she didn't look surprised. In fact, she looked sad. I warned you years ago, Jenna said softly. Lauren has always struggled with her emotions. She's volatile. She gets angry easily and blames everyone around her. Our family learned to walk on eggshells around her. Ethan felt a chill. Why didn't you tell me it was this serious? You were in love, Jenna replied. And Lauren can be charming. She can hide her temper very well at first. Caleb is suffering, Ethan whispered. Jenna put a hand on his shoulder. Then you need to protect him. Lauren won't change unless she wants to. And right now, it sounds like she doesn't want help. She wants someone to blame. Ethan drove home that night feeling heavier than ever. For years, he had been trying to save his marriage, trying to keep the family together. But now he finally saw the truth. All this time, he had been protecting the wrong person. Caleb was the one who needed saving. And things were about to get worse. The next morning, Ethan found a brochure on the dining table. Hillside Reform Academy. Change your child's behavior through discipline. A disciplinary camp. Lauren walked in with coffee, acting casual. I think Caleb needs this. I'm planning to enroll him next month. Ethan stared at her, horrified. Without talking to me? He's out of control, she said coldly. This is for his own good. No. This was punishment. This was control. This was her trying to get rid of him. At that moment, Ethan understood one thing clearly. If he didn't act soon, Lauren would destroy Caleb completely. And he could no longer stay silent. Ethan expressed his intent to protect Caleb and stop Lauren's emotional abuse on Christmas morning. He didn't wait. He didn't soften his voice. He didn't try to avoid conflict anymore. It was early, the house quiet, snow still falling outside. Lauren was sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee when Ethan walked in. She looked up, annoyed before he even spoke. We need to talk, Ethan said, his voice steady but firm. She sighed. If this is about Caleb again. It is, Ethan cut in. And I'm done watching you hurt him. I'm done pretending things are normal. I know everything now. The cold nights. The hunger. The lies to your friends. And I'm not letting you continue. Lauren slowly put her cup down. Her eyes narrowed. So you think you can tell me how to parent? After working late for years and leaving everything to me. I'm going to protect Caleb, Ethan said clearly. From you. Those words seemed to hit her like a slap. But instead of guilt or shame, something darker crossed her face. A cold anger mixed with a strange confidence. You think you're the hero, she said quietly. But you have no idea what's coming. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. What does that mean? Lauren leaned back in her chair, almost relaxed. I never wanted Caleb, Ethan. I told you that. And now? I'm done pretending. I'm done being trapped. I'm done being blamed for everything. Ethan clenched his fists. Lauren, stop. No, she stood up. Her voice grew sharper, stronger. I'm leaving you. I've been planning it for months. Ethan froze. And I'm taking Caleb with me, she added. What? Ethan stepped forward. You think any judge would give you custody after everything you've done? Lauren smirked. That's where you're wrong. Something was off. Too calm. Too practiced. Too prepared. Then she said the words that shattered him. I've already started building a case. Against you. Ethan felt his heart skip. What? I've been telling people how aggressive you are. How you lose your temper. How you scare me and Caleb. How you have a history of shouting and throwing things. She shrugged. People believe the mother. They always do. That's a lie, Ethan whispered. You're lying about me. That's the point, she said. I'm smarter than you think. His breathing tightened. His mind raced. He knew Lauren could be manipulative, but this was something else entirely. Then Lauren delivered the final blow. I even started the paperwork. What paperwork? Ethan demanded. She didn't answer. She turned and walked toward her home office. Ethan followed, dread rising. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a folder. She tossed it onto the table like a grenade. Ethan opened it, and his entire world collapsed. Inside was a drafted legal document claiming he had been emotionally and physically abusive toward her and Caleb. False incidents. Fake dates. Lies written as if they were facts. As if she had lived them. His hands shook as he read the lines. Ethan Miller has displayed violent tendencies. He has threatened me and made Caleb fear for his safety. I believe he is unstable and could harm us. This is all fake, Ethan said, his voice breaking. How could you do this? It doesn't have to be true, Lauren said calmly. It just has to look believable. He stared at her, his eyes wide with disbelief. You would destroy my life. You would take my son away based on lies. He ruined my life, Lauren snapped. You both did. For a moment, silence filled the room. Heavy. Terrifying. Then Ethan's anger finally surfaced. You are sick, Lauren. You need help. This isn't normal. This isn't love. This is cruelty. Lauren suddenly burst into tears, but even that felt off. Too dramatic. Too sudden. Too practiced. You don't understand what it's like, she cried. Being stuck. Being unloved. Having to carry everything alone. You're the bad one, Ethan. You never cared about me. He stared at her carefully. Her tears were falling, but her eyes were clear, sharp and calculating. This wasn't a breakdown. This wasn't pain. It was strategy. She was trying to twist the situation. Trying to pull him back in. Trying to confuse him again. But this time it didn't work. For the first time in years he saw Lauren fully. Dangerous, manipulative, unpredictable. And he knew staying in that house meant losing Caleb. He closed the folder slowly and set it aside. I'm not fighting with you anymore. I'm not yelling. I'm not reacting. I'm done. Lauren frowned, confused. What does that mean? It means I'm taking Caleb, Ethan said quietly. We're leaving. You can't, she screamed. You can't take him away from me. Ethan didn't answer. He stepped out of the office and went straight to Caleb's room. His son looked up, scared. Pack your things, Ethan said gently. Only the important stuff. Caleb swallowed. Dad, what's happening? We're going somewhere safe, Ethan said. Right now. Minutes later, they walked past Lauren. She stood in the hallway shaking, her face twisted with shock and rage. You'll regret this, she shouted. You can't win against me. Ethan opened the front door. Snow fell softly outside. He looked back only once and said, I don't care about winning. I care about protecting my son. And with that, he and Caleb stepped out into the cold Christmas morning. But this time, the cold felt like freedom. Ethan contacted a lawyer the same day. He explained everything. How Lauren had been hurting Caleb, locking him out, starving him, and lying about him. He also gave the lawyer the security footage, showing Lauren pushing Caleb outside on cold nights. The lawyer said it was strong evidence and helped Ethan file for temporary custody immediately. He felt nervous but also relieved. For the first time, he felt like he was taking real action to protect his son. When Lauren got the legal notice, she was shocked. Her friends and family began to see her true behavior, and the pattern of manipulation she had hidden for years became clear. People started questioning her lies, and she could no longer control the story. Ethan and Caleb moved into a small apartment. It was simple, but it was safe and warm. For the first time in a long while, Caleb smiled without fear. They cooked meals together, laughed at small things, and talked openly about their days. Every night, Ethan made sure to ask Caleb how he felt and listened carefully, letting him know he was safe. Slowly they began to heal. Caleb's confidence grew, his grades improved, and he felt loved again. Ethan realized that protecting his son might cost him his marriage, But he accepted it. Keeping Caleb safe and happy was more important than anything else. For the first time in years, Ethan felt peace. He knew he had made the right choice. And he promised himself that he would always be there for Caleb, no matter what. Months later, Ethan felt a calm he hadn't known in years. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. The small apartment felt like home. There was laughter in the mornings, quiet evenings, and no yelling or fear. Caleb was doing much better. He was more confident, smiling more, and even enjoying school again. His grades were improving, and he had made new friends. Every day, Ethan saw small signs of healing, a joke, a laugh, or a proud moment with his artwork. One evening, Ethan found a note from Caleb on his desk. It said, "Thanks for coming home early that night, Dad." His chest tightened. He remembered that freezing night and how scared Caleb had been. That message showed him that coming back for his son had changed everything. Ethan hugged Caleb tightly and whispered, "I will never let you stand in the cold alone again. I will always notice when something is wrong. I will always protect you." Caleb smiled and held on. Ethan knew they still had challenges ahead, but he also knew they had each other. Love, care, and trust were slowly rebuilding their lives. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt hope that they could finally be safe, happy, and together. Besties. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Bye.